Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Today, Saturday, the 8th of October 2022, the Kerch Bridge, the Crimea Bridge, was sabotaged, was destroyed, was blown up by a truck that was placed on it and exploded, and then some train carriages carrying fuel got fire, and they are on fire, so it's unoperational. That happened today. That is an act of, would you call it terrorist, or would you call it a fair game? This is not a military infrastructure. This is a civilian infrastructure destroyed by the Ukrainians. They say the Ukrainians are happy about it, obviously, and some NATO Western countries are happy about it. That shows a little bit of a mindset towards destroying civilian infrastructure. Now, some people, and in this case I'm using a political analyst who states that that would not have been possible without the US involvement. Obviously, there's a initial investigation. It started, and we'll find out what they conclude. They already concluded that it's the Ukrainians, the security service of Ukraine, and they were involved in it. It's very strange how we have, or they have, values and virtues that are circumstantial. So it's based on the situational virtue. When is this? I use my virtue, here it's not. And a clear example was, let's use Khashoggi murder versus Dugina murder. How they reacted about Khashoggi, it's an attack on free speech, but Dugina's being blown up in Moscow is not that. Nothing to see here. This is the people we're dealing with here. So here we have this article from Sputnik, obviously, because in the mass media in the West they will try to weasel it out, and they will tell us that it was fair game, actually, but the Russians destroying Ukrainian infrastructure it's a war crime, but this one is just retaliation. So if someone kills someone else's father, that's a crime. If that person goes and retaliates and kills the other person's father, that's not a crime. It's just retaliation. You got what you deserve. That's the logic on this one, it seems like. So the same crime is also based on the circumstance. Unbelievable, but it is. It is the way it is. So we have here, Crimean Bridge attack takes Ukraine crisis to new phase where infrastructure is fair game. This is the title of Sputnik from about 10 minutes ago on the 8th of October 2022. It says the 19-kilometer bridge linking Crimea to Krasnodar region via the Sea of Azov was struck by a massive explosion on Saturday, halting all road and rail traffic. A senior advisor to Ukraine's president immediately boasted that the attack was just, quote-unquote, the beginning, with Moscow calling the comments proof of Ukrainian authorities' quote-unquote terrorist nature. So whatever they did to the civilian infrastructure, now US trace. And I'm quoting, Ukraine's attack against the Crimean Bridge undoubtedly took place after getting a green light from the United States and using American weapons. The US side intends to further ramp up the degree of escalation of the conflict and military hostilities. End quote. Iranian journalist, whoa. I know he's Iranian, might be on the, certainly is not with the United States, so hold your horses. Iranian journalist and Russian expert Rudollah Modaber said, I have another one. I have a accredited analyst as well, not only the Iranian, okay? But these guys want to make a point by using as many people coming out and saying, okay? So they start with the Iranian, and then they're gonna go to another weasel, they say. Now this guy Modaber points out that the attack on bridge came less than 2 days after President Volodymyr Zelensky called on the West to carry out a preemptive, possibly nuclear attack against Russia. There's no proof of any connection between this. They look down and say, okay, the attacks on the Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2 was attack actually on Germany, not on Russia. destroying that. That's what this claims here, not the Iranian. The Americans gonna claim in a second. I have to look and see if this article is worth talking about, and it is very much. And it says that there's a connection between those attacks in the Baltic Sea and the Kerch Bridge. I don't think it's any attack. This was attack with a bomb like that, and the other one, I don't know. It needs more expertise to blowing up two pipelines versus putting a truck on a bridge and blowing up. Now, political analyst and former MEP Nick Griffin agrees that there is no question of US involvement in the attack on the bridge, but believes that there are important distinctions to be made between the attack and last month's sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines, for example. It says, and I'm quoting, "First, hitting the bridge was an act of war against Russia, while the target of the pipeline sabotage was primarily Germany. Second, the ISIS-style suicide bomb on the bridge was a very different sort of violence to the highest sophisticated state-level naval operation in the Baltic." He is right, Griffin said, and I'm quoting again, "Of course, the bridge attack would not have been conducted without CIA approval, but while they are part of the same war, it is hard to see any direct connection." True. So both actions were aimed at public opinion, Griffin argues, with the Crimean Bridge bomb meant to anger Russians and push Moscow into retaliation. They can be used as fresh propaganda for increased intervention by the West, while the sabotage of Nord Stream was meant to deprive Germans of the ability to pressure their government into turning the gas taps back on again in time to save the nation's industrial base for disintegrated. I totally agree with that. Escalation guaranteed. Griffin believes the attack against the Crimean Bridge will make it easier for Moscow to target Ukrainian infrastructure, something that Russian military has so far generally avoided doing in a bid to limit civilian casualties and economic damage. Obviously, Ukraine and the West disagrees with these statements. And I'm quoting, "The Western public would see such a move as understandable retaliation," he says. "This contrasts with, for example, a strike on a NATO base in eastern Poland, which would be very satisfying, quote unquote, but badly misjudged sort of response that the Zelensky regime and its US deep state advisors surely hope to see," end quote, the Observer suggests. Now we have Ma Yojun, lead expert of Sino-Russian Comprehensive Strategic Cooperation Research Center in the university in Harbin, China, concurs that the attack on the bridge will likely escalate the crisis. And I'm quoting, "Over the past 6 months, the emphasis has been on observable combat operation. In the future, the situation will most likely be more of a war with an emphasis on aspects such as logistics, infrastructure, and so on. This has already been manifested in the explosions targeting the Nord Stream 1 and 2 gas pipelines and now the Crimean Bridge. Obviously, attacks on railway station, bus station, railways, and roads are possible in the future. A war is being waged to destroy the enemy, and the goal is not limited to destroying his physical combat power." She said that. The scholar argues that as Western assistance to Kiev continues to increase, and I'm quoting, its image as an indirect participant in their war becomes more distinct. Furthermore, Zelensky's public rejection of negotiation with Russia is not a Ukrainian decision, but a decision of Western countries, Ma stressed. And then we have another one. Tiberio Graziani, chairman of Vision and Global Trust, an Italy-based international affairs think tank, echoes the concerns expressed above, telling Sputnik he believes the attacks on the bridge was part of a complex plan to escalate the confrontation between Kiev and Moscow and could mark a new phase of further actions of terror on Russian soil. Yeah, and this is what's going on. I don't know if these are just blah 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 because they have no evidence. We just them, and I agree with that. We just can speculate that without the US approval, these guys would not have pushed the buttons to do this. And that was a red line set by the Russians. But as I always say with red lines, you have to have something behind it. You can't just bluff, because if you bluff, you lose face, and I think Russians already did, because they said if their territory is attacked by Ukrainian missiles or anything like that, they would be unleashed, blah blah blah. Remember Medvedev when he said it's going to be you will have no place to hide and violin, blah blah blah. Well, they hit Crimea about 7 times, and this is the pinnacle, and he was referring specifically, Medvedev, to this bridge. If that's attacked, you're going to be all dead. Well, you know what I mean. So nothing will happen on that. I don't want that to happen, because the problem is the Russians will destroy Ukrainians. They will not go to the ones responsible with this. No. And the Russians will be destroyed by Ukrainians for certain kind of interests that are not Ukrainian. There you have it. And then what's next? What could the Russians do? Look what's happening with the front. This here and there. So we just speculate on that it was US, but without the green light, I'm pretty sure that, again, I would be 98% certain that these guys received the green light from the United States saying, yeah, you can do that and see what happens. What are they going to do? Nothing. Why? Because the Ukrainians escalated, if you want, little by little, the bombardment of certain positions. Remember, the first one was that military base in Crimea? Who did it? And the Russians tried to avoid saying that, yeah, it was them. Why? Because there was a red line crossed, and that made them look bad. So they, oh no, it was an accident, when they knew damn well it was the guys from the other side. And then 5 more or 6, they attacked Crimea. They attacked Sevastopol on 2 occasions. Remember the defense ministry over there, or whatever it was, the maritime, the Navy headquarters, with a drone. Again, it was the red line. Another hit of another military base in Crimea, bombed. Again, that's a red line, boy. What are they going to do? Nothing. Get out of here. You're not serious. What am I talking about not serious? You either don't say it, oh, it's a red line, or you say it and you do something. Well, you said it. Are you going to do something? No. You're not serious. Bye-bye. See you. You're weak. What am I supposed to say? They're strong? Don't set the red line if you can't follow through with what you say. I mean, what do you say? It is a red line. If you come here, I'm going to... It's like I tell someone, hey, thieves, if you enter my house, I'm going to... Okay? And they enter the house and I'm like, hey, I told you stay away from my house. Really? No. Once they come over there, they will be received with the... Be certain about that. Because I can. And I want and I will. I defend my life, defend my family, my property. But these guys, yeah, red line, okay, blah, blah. So we'll find out. It doesn't even matter. Now you can say, well, it was justified. The Russians bombed their infrastructure. That's true. That's true. They bombed infrastructure over there, right? According to the media reports provided by the Western outlets. They showed all kind of things. I don't know who did it. Maybe this Crimea Bridge, it was not done by the Ukrainians. Maybe it was done by the Russians to escalate and point fingers. Is it possible? Yes, it's very possible. No, I'm not an idiot. That happened. You know, you do it and then you point to the other ones and everybody, oh, see up there they are together. Let's go mobilize about 20 million Russians and go and soak our feet in the, how do you call it, Atlantic Ocean. How about that? You think these things are not possible? We talk about people who would do anything, okay? If you don't think so, go in the neighborhood and talk with some people and see what they will. And just go in some neighborhood and say, yeah, I got $100 and I'm not going to give it to anybody. You might be for $100. And this is human race. It's not, and human nature. It's not only them. It's us too. We have that inside of us. It's just that we don't have the opportunity to let it go, and we still have. Some of us are afraid to do it. Some of us are just don't have the circumstance. But we all, as we are animals. We are violent animals. And besides, human being kill for pleasure and for other interests. The lion kills for food, not for pleasure. And other animals, okay, predators. So yeah, thank you very much for being with me again today. I think they received a green light. That's for certain. I don't think involvement, and it was an easy job on that. And that could happen anywhere, on any infrastructure, anywhere. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.